Can everybody see that? Okay. Hey everyone, Kimberly, thank you. I'm Carmen. I'm going to talk to you guys about service workers today. My goal is that at the end of this, you'll have everything you need to know to make your very first service worker. Just briefly, my name's Carmen. You can find me on Twitter or on my blog. I've got a blog post that basically goes over this particular demo that I'm going to show you today if you're more of a blog post kind of person. And check out my Twitter. Also, I do talk a little bit fast sometimes, or if you have a question, please just pipe up and be like, hey, slow down, or I have a question. So please interrupt me. That's what I'm trying to say. So just briefly, let's talk about what service workers are. They are provided by your browser. They are actually JavaScript. You might be wondering, why are we talking about JavaScript at a C# group? Well, if we're full stack developers, which I think a lot of us probably are, I know I am, it's really important to consider what's going on your front end. And offline is something that's going to happen to everybody at some point or another. It's really a big thing for me, offline. I blog about it a lot. I really dig it. And what service workers allow you to do is you can cache your files and your assets and your JavaScript files, like pretty much whatever front-end stuff that you want within the browser. So when you do go offline, you are covered on a front-end perspective. Anything that you are going to be serving up to your client to be viewed in the browser, it's already there for you. And if you want to go look at any service workers you have, you can pop open your DevTools, and this is how you get there. It's under Applications, and then in the left menu, there's a service worker option. And just some quick examples of how you will absolutely, definitely go offline at some point or another. Your router can go out. I use this example all the time, but it's completely true. Your router can go out and you can't get to the store, or you can't get a repair person out. Your ISP can be overloaded and cause problems in that way. Or if you're using cloud service providers, I know I do, they can go down. So there's multiple points of failure, and it's just really, really great to have something like this in place for what is basically going to happen. So I kind of just went over why we should use one, but again, it provides that consistency because everybody's going to lose connection, and also I just really like playing with them. I think they're super cool. So everybody should use service workers. If you're full stack, it's also really good to know, what is it doing, how does it work, because they are definitely growing in popularity. So kind of already went over this, your router can go down, your ISP can have problems, and then your cloud provider can have issues as well. So just examples of loss of connection. And it does not work server-side because, again, it's in your browser. Your browser is what's providing it for you. So like I said before, your files are being cached locally, so they're literally on your user's computer in your user's browser. So there is no connection at that point to the external server because you don't have connection anymore. So let's get started. I will show you some code for what it looks like to first register your service worker. Your service worker is usually going to be contained in its own file, and then that file is going to be registered within your application's JavaScript. It's really important to wrap this in this if statement right here because they are not widely adopted yet across all browsers. So you definitely want to make sure, especially for older browsers, that the service worker is actually there, because if it's not there, take my word for it, it's not going to be good. So don't forget to wrap in your if statement. Next, in your service worker file, you're going to have this install function. What this function's doing is it's first, let me back up a second. Service workers run off of events. After it's registered, there's this install event that gets called, and we're hooking into that event right here. So the first thing we're doing is we're opening a cache. You can name it whatever you want. I obviously think I'm super clever. Once you've done that, that function returns a promise, and within that promise, you can add as many assets as you like. I've seen where they've added to 15, 20 pictures, and it's just this long. So you can really add whatever you want. It needs to be something that can be served from the browser, though, so keep that in mind. We're not going to be serving APIs this way or anything like that. These are like static files. So once you've added those to your cache, they are in your user's browser. Next, we have this other event that gets called. This gets called when your connection is lost. It's on fetch. And what this line right here is doing is it's saying, go to the cache and respond with the last cached files that you cached. So when your browser caches these files, it caches them in like a stack. So you've got your oldest one on the bottom, and then it's like newest, 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 newest is at the top. So what this is going to do is it's going to go to that stack of caches and say, just give me the last one you made. So it'll be the most recent one. This is really handy for when you're updating your static files, like say you swap out a picture or you update some text. This is what's going to allow that to get propagated to your service worker. And that also returns a promise, so I would not recommend doing it this way. Definitely put a catch on your promise so that if you have problems, you can account for them. Definitely do that. And now that I've kind of explained it to you, I can show you a sweet demo. So, can you guys all see my terminal? Or do I need to bump up the font? I don't know if that's even doing anything. Okay, is that better? Great. So what we have right now is an example of what it might look like if your cloud service provider is down, right? So I've got a site and it's running on Heroku maybe, and it's down for whatever reason, maybe maintenance, who knows. And we get this really sad looking face where it's like, sorry user, you're just out of luck. So what I'm gonna show you is if we start up, let me make sure I'm in the right place first. If you guys aren't familiar with HTTP server, it's just a node module that lets you run a node server in any directory. So that's what I'm using right there. So we can see that my site is now up. So yay, our service provider is back up again. And you can see it says hello world. It's pretty cool, right? Very simple. So here's what I'm gonna do now. I stopped it because our cloud provider is down again because, you know, I don't know, maybe they're having outages, who knows? So before, we would have gone back to that old, it wasn't a dinosaur, but that sad face where it was like, sorry, user. I'm going to go ahead and click refresh for you. And look, it's still there. And so we can see what's happening down here in the terminal. That is an if statement that's registering our service worker. I'll pop over to the code here in just a second and show you that. And this is coming from the onFetch function. So that's what's actually going and grabbing those assets out of the browser. And we can take a quick look at that. You guys will see it is actually pretty simple. So again, like I said, we register the service worker right here. That's where that if statement was coming from. And then over here, this is literally the exact same code I showed you guys in the slides. We add stuff to cache. That gets run when your service worker is installed, when it's registered. And then this onFetch function, that gets run when your service worker is like, hey, I can't access the internet. Go ahead and fetch these for me. So pretty simple. They seem really intimidating, but to get started, they're actually pretty approachable. And that was short, but that's kind of all I have, unless anybody has any questions. Yes?
Might be a dumb question. Are service workers related at all to web workers?
They are like after web workers. They're based on web workers. So yes. Anything else? Okay, great. If you guys do have any questions, definitely hit me up on Twitter. Hit me up after this. I'm happy to help. Thank you.